Hello, my name is Crystal Petry, and welcome to the third season of my podcast, the Crystal Petry Podcast. On today's episode, I have the right person at the right time. We are talking about, should you become an entrepreneur? Should you quit your traditional job and stick your toe into this water? And here to educate me and you, the right person at the right time, Kay Cole.
Thank you, Crystal, so much for having me. I am so excited to spend some time with you today and dig deep into the world of entrepreneurship.
I'm saying it is a whole nother world out there, Kay. A whole nother world out there. Before we get started, where in the world are you, Miss Cole?
I am in Metro Atlanta, Georgia.
All right, in the South. We love it in the South. Now, my first question for you, Kay, first of all, explain to us what the definition or what is your definition of an entrepreneur?
Best for me, and we hear the word entrepreneur all the time, but honestly, entrepreneur basically is for me is a business owner in
Okay.
whatever capacity that may be for you as a business owner.
Okay. What are the key signs that somebody should become an entrepreneur and stick their toe in that water or stay in their traditional job?
Whew, now that's a loaded question.
It is. It is.
So, for one, entrepreneurship is definitely you have to be called to it. It's not something you just gonna you roll over and be like, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur today. You can do it, but it's not guaranteed it's for you. Entrepreneurship is a different world. It definitely takes a lot of faith. It takes a lot of determination, and it takes a lot of discipline. And people
Uh-huh.
forget the discipline piece of being an entrepreneur.
Yes.
You have to be disciplined. When it comes to becoming an entrepreneur and sticking your toe out in it, for most of us, it's if you're a visionary. I look at entrepreneurship also as someone with a vision, a
Okay.
visionary, a leader. And if you have that vision, or God has given you that vision, and it does not let you sleep, it does not let you rest, it's constantly tugging, tugging, tugging.
Yes.
Like you got something to do. That is like one of the tell signs of okay, let me see what this is about. Let me dig a little deeper.
Mhm. Now, on this podcast, neither Crystal Petry or Kay Cole is telling you to quit your job.
No, we're not.
We're not telling you to quit your job. What we're doing here and the purpose of this is to help you determine if staying at your traditional job, if that's for you, or becoming an entrepreneur, if that's for you. That's the goal. Not telling you to quit your job. This is not a sign. This is not a sign.
I agree.
Um,
Thank you.
how do
Thank you for that disclaimer too, Crystal.
Yes, this is not your sign that you're looking for. How does somebody know if they have the right mindset to be an entrepreneur?
To know you have the right mindset, when you think about being an entrepreneur, you have to have a very strong mindset because, again, there's going to be days you feel like quitting. There's going to be days you're going to feel like you got it all together. Entrepreneurship I will say, it's an emotional roller coaster ride. Not saying that it's a bad ride, but you have to have strong will with it. And you can't be I don't want to say a weak minded person. So I'm going to say you have to be a strong minded person with it. You have to have the mindset that I'm doing this no matter what, come hell or high water. This is what I'm called to do. And I have to see it through with it.
Right. What skills would you say? And I would say, resilience just pops off based on what you just said. But what skills does a person need to have to be successful in that? I know resilience is one, definitely.
You definitely have to be resilient. You have to be, we don't like to look at it this way, but you have to have structure
Okay.
with it. You have to have organization skills. You have to have some degree of leadership skills with it. Sales, you got to know how to sell. You have to know how to market to a certain extent. for your business. And you have to know without a shadow of a doubt you are the solution to someone's problem. When you think about entrepreneurship, you're basically solving problems. You're a problem solver. So problem solving, you need to learn empathy. Communication is key. You have to know how to properly communicate. Emotional intelligence, you can't stress it enough. You have to have some level of emotional intelligence as well.
And all of those are learned behaviors. So if you are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, start working and taking small steps into emotional behavior, emotional intelligence, excuse me, communication skills, marketing, selling, branding, resilience. Like you got, it's a lot. It's a
It's a
lot of
lot.
boxes you have to check.
It definitely is. Definitely is. So you can't go wrong with soft skills.
Mhm.
Soft skills we can't speak on enough in entrepreneurship. You definitely have to have some soft skills training.
Okay. Now, a lot of people, they have their traditional job, which when I say traditional, I mean like your Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, or some variation of that. So they have their traditional job, but then they do like something on the side. You know, people call it a side hustle or a side gig or something like that. Is that something you should do?
In this economy, absolutely.
Okay.
The way the economy is changing, I definitely recommend if you have a hobby, explore it a little bit more, just for financial stability for yourself, for your household. It's definitely needed, as the economy will change. One thing about working in corporate America, you're gonna reach the ceiling. You They're only gonna allow you to go so far. In entrepreneurship, there's really not a limit. You set
Oh,
the
wow. I love
tone, you
that.
set the vision and the goals you have. When I was in corporate, we have to work a whole year to reach six figures. Potentially in a business as an entrepreneur, you may reach six figures in a month.
Wow.
So you take the limits off of yourself as an entrepreneur.
I love
We
that.
always see the CEO may pull up in a Lamborghini. You're not making the CEO money, to drive that luxury vehicle or be on vacation as you would like. With the CEO is able to, be out on his yacht fishing or doing whatever, while us as employees, we're on the job making him richer.
Absolutely. And a
Mhm.
lot of times, the things that you were doing for that CEO, you could probably be doing for yourself, making yourself richer.
Mhm.
Which leads right into my next question, Kay. How can someone determine? Is there like a checklist or something that can help someone determine if their idea for their entrepreneurship, if this is a viable idea?
Market research. Do your research. Look at similar businesses or entrepreneurs that are doing the same thing you want to do or that you have an idea for. Explore, research, ask questions. Of course, read. We say research, but reading, listen to podcasts. Just explore the opportunity of what you're wanting to do by people that's already doing it and they are successful doing what you're wanting to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk about the money part of this, Kay, which a lot of people they're like, okay, y'all been talking for 5 minutes. I mean, 9 minutes. When are we getting to the money part? Okay, so you have your traditional job. You want to start an entrepreneur, maybe you want to quit your traditional job. What are the most important aspects as far as financially that people need to think about and take into consideration before they quit their traditional job?
There's a lot to consider financially. For one, you need to make sure you have the financial savings or the financial means to sustain your household yourself, as you transition out of that job. Everybody does not do that. Make sure you have a safety net, a cushion, as we call it, a rainy day fund.
Mhm.
Have something that can help you through the time of you building out that business. And then also, while you're taking care of home, starting a business is it's expensive. Like, it's not a cheap it's not a cheap start. So you have to make sure you're able to balance your household and take what you need to invest in your business to get it off the ground and running. So
Okay.
there's not a magical number. It
Mhm.
depends on, what it takes for your household to function. When I left when I left corporate America, it was so crazy. But I was like, what's her name off of the show Everybody Hates Chris. I was like, my husband got two jobs.
Oh, yes, the wife. Yes.
Yes, I was like, my husband got two jobs, but also I already had established my business years prior to me leaving corporate. So I really had a balance of the best of both worlds at that time.
So you were able, which we talked about in the previous question, you were still doing your traditional job, Kay, and you were also doing your entrepreneurial on the side.
Mhm.
How long did you do both before you decided, okay, it's time for me to take this leap?
To take the lead. So, being in Georgia, I've been in Georgia almost 10 years. So, I started my first business in 2016. When I actually left corporate America, it was 2018 when I went full time into my business.
Okay, so 2 years. And what was it? Did something happen? Was there an idea? Was it, like you were saying, just pulling on you? You couldn't sleep at night. What happened that caused you to say, today is the day? This month is the month. 2018 is the year.
It's funny because the life and death lies in the power of our tongue, right?
Absolutely.
So I was getting ready to go on vacation, and prior to my vacation I kept saying, when I come back, I'm quitting, I'm going full time. I already had an office, so I had an office space that I was paying for, that I was working, going to when I wasn't on my job. And when I came back, there was an incident that happened amongst me and some counterparts, some partners that I worked
Mhm.
with. And it got to the point to where I was like, you know what? I don't have to do this. I don't have to deal with this. Me being a young Black woman in a leadership role, um, it wasn't taken likely that people were, wanting to take instructions or advice from me. And it was like, you can't tell me what to do. And,
Mm.
it was just one of those conversations. So when that conversation took place, I called my husband and I was like, this is what's going on. And he was like, you have a whole office. Do what you need to do and go spend the rest of the day in your office. And even with me taking that step, it was questioned, well, what are you going to do for income and, XYZ? And are you sure? And I'm like, I'm 100% positive, sure, that this is what I want to do. And me being me with a smart mouth, I said, you can Google me. And he's like, what? I said, you can Google me. And at that time, he did Google me and he realized that I was a published author. I had a nonprofit, I had a cosmetic line, and all of those things. So
Mhm.
he was shocked. He was like, you've been doing all of these things while you work for us. Absolutely. You were not my primary source
Mhm.
of income. You contribute, but this wasn't my end all be all for me. So I left that day, and by the grace of God and strategy and support, I have not stepped back into corporate America.
Well, congratulations to
Thank you.
you. That's amazing, Kay. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Congratulations and kudos to you. Because a lot of people would have stayed in that situation because
Mhm,
of the fear, the
mhm,
fear of the unknown, the fear of what happens if I quit this job and I don't make it, or, all of these other things. So kudos to you for betting on
mhm,
yourself and believing in yourself. Let's talk about, because your husband was a huge support system during that time. Let's talk about the importance of your support system or your team around you. And when I say team, I mean family and friends
mhm.
during, becoming an entrepreneur. How important is that?
It's very, very important. And at that time, that is now my ex husband, but in that moment. He was very vital. He was very supportive. My children were supportive. Everybody around me was really, really supportive. And, transitioning like that and suddenly like that, it's like, okay, ooh, I did it. You kind of like, well, did I make the right decision?
Right.
What does this really look like? But for me, I come from a family of entrepreneurs. So it wasn't something that was new to me. My grandfathers all had their own businesses. So I grew up watching them run multiple businesses and things like that. So the support was very vital because one thing we don't talk about a lot in the entrepreneur space is there are moments you are going to cry. There are moments you're going to want to quit. So having the people around you to still push you and support you, it is very vital to your mental, to your sanity, to everything, to the success of you and your business.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so now we're going to pivot a little bit and talk about specifically how to become an entrepreneur. If someone who's listening, who's watching, is wanting to do this, who's wanting to make this leap, what would you say are the first steps, if you can give me 2 or 3K, to starting a business? What are the first things that people need to do?
First thing you need to do is explore the idea you have. Before you just jump out and start, you need to see if this is a profitable idea. You need to see what it looks like, what it takes to create that business. Of course, you have to create, do your state registration, you have to do your EIN and all of those things. But before then, you need to have a game plan. You need to create a strategy. You need to understand what marketing looks like for that business. You need to understand what branding looks like for that business. And do you have a solid foundation to build a business on your operational strategy. So there's a lot before you even get to the Secretary of State to register. You need to really make sure you have, a good understanding whether it's service or product based. Because with product
Mhm.
basis, you have to know your inventory, you have to know your audience. So
Yes.
before you even go to the website to register, you need to have a really good idea of who you're going to serve, what problem you're going to solve.
Yes. So what you're speaking about is having a business plan. Having a
Yes.
business plan. So of course you stated, you need to determine if you are doing a service-based or product-based business. You need to determine your core audience, who you will be serving, whether that's service or product. What are some other must-have things in your business plan?
You need to have a budget. You need to know what it costs to
Okay.
operate your business, how much to start your inventory budget, marketing research. There's so much that goes into your business plan. Also, you need to have an exit strategy. A lot of times we don't think about the exit strategy of a
Mm.
business. So there's a lot that goes into the business plan and the business planning piece.
Wow. Yes. Yes. Okay. So this next question, I'm gonna also do a shameless plug, but I'm gonna ask the question: how do people fund their business idea? What are some ways they can do that?
Okay, so plenty. There's several ways. Of course, personal. You can personally fund your business, bootstrap.
Hmm.
There's grant opportunities. There's funding, lending opportunities. There's also angel investors. There are investors. So there's a lot of ways for you to actually be able to fund your business.
So, shameless plug here at Crystal Petry Consulting. We do grant research and grant writing. So, if you are looking to fund your business, please contact me on my website, capetryllc.com. Shameless plug there. Okay. What would you say are the best industries to start in right now? We're in 2025. What would you say are the best industries to start?
So right now, tech is always going to be a booming
Yes.
industry.
Yes.
AI is taking over. Creativity, There's so look, I'm over here like, oh my gosh, there's so many. There's so many industry. The trucking industry is not going anywhere. Healthcare
Right.
industry is not going anywhere. We love to eat. We're foodies. The food industry is not going anywhere, and of course, clothing. The beauty industry. The beauty industry actually is like other industries. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. If you have a love for fashion and beauty, you cannot go wrong with a good quality product. It has to be
Correct.
quality. You
Correct.
can't go wrong in those two industries, and it's literally a gold mine to tap into those industries.
And a lot of the industries, really all of the industries that you mentioned, Kay, are like evergreen industries, industries that I don't care what year it is, they are going to be there. Trucking, technology, clothing, those things are not going
Mhm.
anywhere. So if you are thinking about, an idea, think of something that's evergreen, that's not going to go anywhere, that's not going to be phased out in the next five
Mhm.
to 10 years.
Right.
Right, right. Um, so how do you develop a strong network as an entrepreneur? Because you have your network like in your traditional job, but when you step into these other waters, you really have to kind of recreate a whole nother network, correct, Kay?
Yes. Networking events, showing up virtual or in person events are always good. Utilizing social media, connecting with family and friends, letting them know who you are and what you do. People can't support what they don't know and they don't see.
Right,
So
right.
definitely putting it out there. Word of mouth is everything when starting a new business.
How does someone, you have your business plan, you have your idea, how do you protect that idea? How do you protect the intellectual property or the services or the products that you want to sell?
Definitely trademark and speak with a business
Okay.
attorney to inquire on how to properly trademark your business, your intellectual properties. Definitely need an attorney. Make sure you budget in for an attorney to be able to take care of the
Mhm.
legal aspect inside of your business.
I know that earlier in the podcast, we discussed that starting a business is expensive. And
Mhm.
yes, it is very expensive. Can someone start a business with little to no money? Is that possible?
Well, it it is, but depending on where you're when you think about little to no money, if you
Mhm.
have depending on where your state is, your registration can be anywhere from $50 to $300 or
Okay.
$400. So that's already a small expense, but that's just registering the business
Right.
before you even get started. So it depends on what you consider a little bit of money um, to a lot to get started. And you have to think about if it's service based. Now, if you are a creator, a creative, and you can create graphic designs, logos, things like that, there's still a minimal cost because you got to make sure you have the proper software. So
Right.
it just depends on what the industry is. Even if you're going to, start a food truck or you're going to sell plates or something like that, the cost of food is expensive. So when you
Mhm.
think about starting a business with little to no money, it's you can possibly do it, but what does that really look like for you? Because there's cost associated with everything you're
Right.
going to be doing.
And it's continued cost. So it's not just the
Mhm.
upfront cost, it's the cost, monthly or, weekly, whatever that looks like for you. So while it is possible to start, I'm in complete agreement with you. It is possible to start it with little to no money, but eventually, somewhere along that line, that money and the finances will catch up to you.
Absolutely.
So, Kay, you have been an entrepreneur almost 10 years now. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
What are some challenges to being an entrepreneur that people don't talk about or they don't know about?
Whew, man. There's a laundry list of challenges.
Yes.
What people don't, I won't say don't understand, but
Hmm.
every business has a slow season.
Okay.
So you have to kind of be like the squirrels or the bears. And I know that's a weird analogy, but you have to store up for those slow seasons.
Okay.
Everything is not going to always be in the green. So how do you balance those? How do you offset those slow seasons? That's something
Right.
people don't think about when starting a business. They don't think about the changes in economy, how that's going to affect your business. So there's a lot of planning that goes into business, and also your clientele. You may get 100 clients this month, no clients next month. So it's really a balancing act, and customer service is huge, especially as small business owners. You constantly have to be mindful and think about and I was just having this conversation with some of my mentees. Having a business, marketing your business, selling your business is relationship building. It's like you're dating your clients. You have to understand your clients, what they like, what they don't like. As their needs change, you have to be open and flexible to change with those needs as well. So there's a laundry list of things when it comes to the entrepreneur side of what people may not overlook. Even work-life balance is something people don't really focus on or consider when starting a business.
Right, because with a traditional job, you have kind of your start time, you have your stop time, and most people can turn it on and turn it off during that time. But when you're an entrepreneur, there's no like technical start time, there's no technical stop time. It's just, it feels like you just go, go, go. Kay,
Mhm.
can you speak a little bit to the loneliness of being an entrepreneur?
It definitely gets lonely. And we hear it all the time, the higher you go, the lonelier it gets.
Hmm.
And it does, depending on, where you are. But it does get lonely because, again, you can be so locked in and focused on your business where you have tunnel vision and you don't have time for all of the distractions, the fun time, going hanging out with your friends. Sometimes you miss important dates and deadlines and things like that. But again, that's why it's important to have when you are able to create those boundaries and that work life balance. But it does get lonely because everybody doesn't understand your goal or your vision. So sometimes you shut the world out to keep from I would say contaminating your vision, or putting doubt or fear in your vision of what you're
Mm.
building.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have been talking a lot about, becoming an entrepreneur and kind of what that looks like. How does someone know if, because being an entrepreneur is not for everyone, how
Mhm.
does someone know if they should just stay in their traditional job, which is not a bad thing at all?
It's definitely not a bad thing. It's checks and balances. Everybody is not meant to be an employer. Everybody's not meant to be an employee.
Right.
One, you have to have one of each. And if it's not for you, if you're not good at leading, if you're not good at delegating, if you're not good at, if you're bad at meeting deadlines, you procrastinate, you're not, self motivated, you're kind of go with the flow type of person, it may be best for you to stay in a corporate job or own a job, because everybody again doesn't want to lead. Everybody doesn't want the headache or the responsibility of what
Right.
comes with entrepreneurship.
Can someone that's working in corporate, that's working in a traditional job, be happy? And of course, this is just your opinion, and specifically this question. Can someone be happy in a corporate or traditional job with an entrepreneurial mindset?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
And that's actually a challenging question, because for me, although there came a point that it was like, I'm over this, but
Hmm.
even so, every day that I was going to the job, it was like, I know I'm meant for more. I know there's more I need to do. I know there's more in me. This is not it for me. Um, and it got to the point to where it's like you get tired of it because your vision overshadows the job, and it can become a battle to where you really like, I hate getting up going to this job every day.
Hmm.
And it's like that vision keeps tugging at you until you answer the call. So, can someone be in a traditional job and happy? It's possible. But for me, it was like, it's time to go.
Right,
It's
right.
like the time is expiring. It's time for you to clock out. And
Hmm.
sometimes we are so comfortable in those jobs that we stay in them longer than what we're actually meant to be. So it's like sometimes there's a situation that happens in order for you to go ahead and step out on faith to do what you're supposed to be doing.
Right, right. And it really, because like you said, a lot of people will stay because of the comfort, because of, listen, I know I'm gonna get my check every week or every 2 weeks. I don't know what to expect over here in this entrepreneurial world. I know what to expect over here. What would you say? And I know it's different for everyone it's different. What would you say to encourage people that, they have this entrepreneurial mindset, they have this vision, they feel like they're called to do more? How can they leave the comfort of the traditional job?
Start making baby steps.
Okay.
Start preparing. Start getting clear on your vision. Start getting clear on who you're serving, what you're going to offer, and start slowly stepping. I say slowly stepping into it because again, it's a huge transition, and if you don't have the right support, the right systems, the right thing in place, you can make your transition harder than what it needs to be. So just like anything else, just like when you're planning a vacation, go ahead, start putting timelines together, start figuring out what it takes, and just slowly, take that to-do list and check it off one by one.
Oh, absolutely. So let's talk about the emotional and mental toll of becoming an entrepreneur, because I want people who are listening and watching this podcast and listening to you, Cole. I want to make sure that they have kind of a well-rounded view of what they might be stepping into. How do entrepreneurs manage stress and burnout?
I'm gonna be honest.
Hmm.
Therapy, Jesus, and journaling.
Okay, that's three good ones.
That's
Yes.
how I manage. But of course, my husband and my family are very supportive.
Mhm.
And they understand, some days it's, for me, having one of my businesses, a tax business, it's tax season. So some days are going to be easier and longer and harder than others. And, we balance out chores and, all of those things. So therapy, I definitely recommend therapy. Mentor, you can't go wrong with a mentor and a coach. I have a branding coach and mentor. I have a faith-based coach and mentor as well. Surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded, that understands what it's like to be an entrepreneur. Um, is also helpful as well. It helps your sanity. So I can call Crystal like, oh my gosh, this happened today. I don't know what to do. Sometimes you just need a sounding board, and there's a lot of pieces, there's a lot of support pieces that are needed on the journey of entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. Okay, how does someone that's an entrepreneur stay motivated when the business is struggling? When you don't have the clients, you're not seeing the clients, you're not seeing the return on investment with social media or the marketing, the networking, the branding. It's just not happening. How do you stay motivated during that time?
I always go back to your why. Why did you start? Why are
Right.
you doing this? What is the difference? The impact that you're making or you will be making
Mm.
for having this business. Always, when you feel doubtful or you like this isn't working, always go back to your why. Always. That's what keeps you grounded and rooted. And it gives you that little, okay, yeah, you know what? We can do this. I got this. So always go back to the drawing board of why.
How can, and we spoke a little bit about this earlier, okay? How can someone actually manage work-life balance as an entrepreneur?
Boundaries. Boundaries and setting time, self care. Boundaries and self care is very, 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 very important. Boundaries and self care. Setting those hard no's, saying those hard no's. Let your no be no and your yes be yes.
Mm-hmm.
Making out time for your family and understanding what fills your cup back up. Being poured back into. Like we give so much, but I've learned to give
Right.
from the overflow and not what's in my actual cup.
Oh. Okay, what are some emotional challenges that people face being an entrepreneur or a solopreneur? So many different kind of vernaculars nowadays.
I know. A lot of entrepreneurs deal with imposter syndrome, whether or not they're good enough. Are they're overachievers, they're perfectionists. Comparing their business to other business owners or other people that have probably one of the biggest things, the biggest issues that you could ever do or problem you can cause is looking at your business. If you're in year one, looking at somebody that's in year 10.
Mm,
So in entrepreneurship, it's very important. It's just like a test. Keep your eyes on your paper
yes.
because anything else you will get discouraged. You'll be like, I'm not doing enough. You won't have boundaries. You won't have work life balance because you're now trying to keep up with everything else that you see. And that's not what you were called to do.
Yes, yes. Okay, so we've spoken a lot about becoming an entrepreneur. What about if you are an entrepreneur? How do you know, okay, I need to get out of this and return to a traditional job, which is not a bad thing. I want to make sure and stress that. But how do you know it's time to step away from this?
If you've given your all in all, and I'm not saying, you've been in it for 30 days and you get challenged and you're like, oh, this isn't for me. No, you didn't fight. You gotta fight.
Right.
When you get to the point to where you really feel there is no more fight in you, if you get to the point to where you have depleted every resource, everything, you have nothing left to give. If it has gotten to the point to where it is causing mental and emotional turmoil in your home, because of financial stress or work life balance, there's so many layers to it, then I would definitely consider returning. And the thing is with returning, it can be temporary. It doesn't have to be permanent. It could be, you know what, let me step back in, let me generate some income. So
Right.
now I can go back in here. I've learned a lot of times we look at a loss as a loss, but it's honestly, it's a lesson. So let me take what I've learned,
I love
go
that.
back in, and then come back with the experience and a greater understanding. So now I can execute to my full potential.
I
So
love that. I love that. Okay, we are getting ready to wrap up, Kay. I have a couple more questions for you. To the listener, male or female, single or married, what specific piece of advice would you give? You've been in this entrepreneurial world almost a decade now. What specific piece of advice would you give to the listener that you wish you would have known when you first started your entrepreneurial journey?
a piece of advice that I wished I had. Don't be in a hurry. Take your
Okay.
time. Enjoy the moment. Celebrate the small wins. The small wins add up. And that was one of the things that I did miss out on a lot because I was so focused on getting to the bigger wins that I was
Yes.
like, oh, this is nothing. And then when I look back, I'm like, wow, those little moments really matter. So taking your time, realizing I'm only in competition with myself, which I've always looked at it that way. But
Hmm.
just embrace the small moments, embrace the journey, document the journey, so you can go back and look at how far you've progressed while you're doing it.
Yes, yes. Okay, and my final question for you, Kay, what is your intention in this entrepreneurship space?
My intention is with what I do is to um, bring more awareness,
Okay.
increase impact, and serve people to the best of my ability and my capacities that I have been afforded to do. So I really look forward to just being a problem solver, showing that it can be done, even for my kids as they look at me and see what I'm doing, to show them that anything is possible.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Kay, for joining us on the podcast and helping people with possible entrepreneurship journey or staying in a traditional job. Neither one is, better or worse. We just want to make sure you're educated in the decision to empower yourself and elevate yourself as well. So thank you so much, Kay.
Thank you.
And to my listeners, to my audience, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. You can get Kay's podcast on YouTube Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. And remember, you always have time to listen and learn on the go.